to a January 5th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Let me get a little more light here. That might help. Yeah. A December 20th, let's see, let's go. January 5th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. My name is Phil Dixon. I'm a black baseball historian and author. And if you like these kind of broadcasts, go ahead and subscribe. So I'm coming to you live, and this is a live broadcast, so you can participate. Feel free to drop any questions you might have, intelligent questions related to baseball, or especially related to the topic. If you're joining me, make sure you put in where you're joining from. That's always more entertaining to me and also the people who are following to know where you're joining from. So without any further hesitation, let's get busy and let's look at some of these baseball facts that occurred on January the 5th throughout time. Okay, so we're going to go immediately. We're going to start with Jackie Robinson. January 5th, 1937, Jackie Robinson scored 16 points to give Coach Al Walton's, I guess, I'm not sure you pronounce it, MUIR Tech Class A basketball team a 36-30 win over Eagle Rock High at whatever MUIR Tech in Pasadena, California basketball action. Now, most of you know Jackie Robinson was an outstanding baseball player, but he was equally good at basketball and also football, and he was quite the track and field athlete. So that's Jackie Robinson. We'll be talking about him quite a bit in January because there were many articles that are going to come out related to not only his athletics and other sports, but in addition, there's lots to talk about when he began to integrate the International League. So we're going to talk a lot about him in January. And so if you're going to get your Jackie Robinson fix for sure, because we're going to be mentioning this great legend of African American sports all throughout this month and well into February. All right. Okay. And since, keeping with that trend, I'm going to go to my next fact, which is January 5th, 1957. And it also includes Jackie Robinson. Rather than accept a trade from the Brooklyn Dodgers to the New York Giants, Jackie Robinson, number 42, you remember the old number 42, announced his retirement from baseball. The former Kansas City Monarchs infielder is headed to baseball's Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. And he'd get there, I think the year was 1965, if my memory serves me correct. It could have been 62, 65, somewhere. I think it was 62, now that I think about it. But someone can correct me on that. If you're a baseball fan, you can look that up real quick and chime in with it just to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, right? But we do know that he is enshrined in Cooperstown. And he was the first African-American enshrined in Cooperstown, of course, the first modern-day African-American to play in the National League. All right, so that was Jackie Robinson. So we jumped off immediately with two facts from Jackie Robinson. Here's an interesting fact here. On January 5th, 1935, I remember this guy very well. Never talked to him, but I remember his baseball cards from when I first started collecting baseball cards in the early years. I remember he was always featured, and his name was Earl Batty. Yeah, he was a catcher for the many American League teams. He was born in Los Angeles, California on January 5th, 1935. In 1962, Batty appeared in 148 games for the Minnesota Twins. And how about this? There aren't a lot of African American catchers around today. I can think of some really good ones. Of course, when you think of the best of them, you got to be thinking about Roy Campanella. And I'm sure that Campanella and their eventual move to Los Angeles probably had a little bit to do with Batty maybe wanting to be a catcher, right? So anyway, he was a five-time All-Star in 1962, 63, 65, and 66, and a three-time Gold Glove Award winner in 1960 to 62. And he made his, believe it or not, he made his debut with the White Sox September 10th, 1955. So he was around a little while before he actually elevated his skills to win all these gold gloves and all-star appearances and things like that. And he was only 20 when he made his debut. And after 13 seasons in his major league career, this is going to be interesting. So he played 13 years of Major League Baseball. Um, he retired, and he enrolled in an HBCU, Bethune-Cookman, at the age of 45. And he graduated with summa cum laude honors in just 2.5 years. Just imagine that. Now, this guy was on a mission to get something accomplished, right? So he went to Bethune-Cookman University, and he graduated there. And then, of course, he became a high school teacher in Ocala, Florida. Now, Ocala is real interesting because that was not too far from where Buck O'Neil was born, around in Clarabelle, Florida. So, yeah, Florida. I'm sure that he had some impact on some young player from Florida. I'm going to have to dig and see if I can find that. Man, I would have loved to have had a teacher like Earl Batty in any subject, because in addition to that subject, I'm going to talk to him about baseball, that's for sure. So that was Earl Batty. And how about this? Batty was an early adopter to the single flap baseball helmet. And he was using it after breaking his cheekbones twice by being hit by pitchers. Now, this is a tough guy. This is a tough, intelligent guy who was on a mission. Man, Earl Batty, I think we need to talk about him a little bit more, especially in this era where you just don't see a lot of outstanding African-American born catchers. Yeah, Earl Batty. Yeah, and growing up, I knew lots of guys who were very, very good catchers. Some of the best guys on our teams that I played on. I played on all African-American teams probably till I was probably ninth grade. And so I saw lots of great catchers around Kansas City. Yeah, indeed. So keeping with the batting helmet, how about this? And this is kind of ironic, but yeah, it's true. Henry Cotto. I don't know if you heard of Henry Cotto, Cotto, born January 5th, 1961. He was the first player in Major League history to wear the double flap, two-ear flaps on his helmet. Now that's interesting. These guys are born on the same day, one wearing one flap, one wearing the two flaps. Now, only in baseball trivia, can you find facts like that. And so Cotto, he was wearing the two flaps at the time. Most players were just wearing the single flap. And so Cotto adopted the double flap style and for protection and comfort. And the look became especially prominent, and it is today. Yeah, the double flap. Lots of people use it, and especially in Little League baseball and baseball outside. We talk about minor league, high school. The double flap is pretty prominent. And so we have Henry Cotto, who was born on this date, an African-American player, born in New York, right? And how about this one? He was outfielder for Chicago Cubs, 1984, New York Mets, 86 to 87. How about, no, that was the Yankees when he was with them. He was with Seattle also, and also the Florida Marlins, and he was born in New York. So you've got the extreme, you got Batty on the West Coast, and then you got Cotto on the East Coast, but they make a tremendous contribution to baseball with a thing called the ear flap, just protecting the cheeks, and it's protected a lot of players through the ages. So, yeah, I just want to mention that because a lot of this history, these men don't get recognition for. And so I'd like to go back and talk about some of the contributions that African Americans have made to baseball, because these are things that are not commonly and every day talked about. All right. So if you're joining me, let me know where you're joining from, guys. And I would appreciate that very much. And this is Phil Dixon, and I'm doing an edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. This is the January 5th edition, January 5th, 2026. Okay, I only have one more fact that I'm going to give you, and then I will step away. So it's January 5th, 1975. Houston Astros pitcher Don Wilson and his 5-year-old son, Alexander, were found dead in their carbon monoxide-filled home. Yeah, and that's a sad story there. Don Wilson, uh, great pitcher, should be remembered more, and especially for more things than just this. If you look up Don Wilson, typically you'll find this story, but yeah, he was much more than this story. And Wilson was age 29. He had finished the 1974 season with an 11-13 record and a 3.07 ERA. And Wilson was a Chet Brewer trained player. Yeah, came from the West Coast, Los Angeles, and had been with the Astros for 9 seasons at this point. Here, let's go back into his history. On April 30th, 1969, the Reds pitcher Jim Maloney was his name, no-hit the Astros 10-0. And that was on April 30th, 1969. Well, the very next day, Wilson returned the favor. How about that? And by pitching a no-hitter and shutting out the Reds 4-0. Back-to-back no-hitters. That will give you some historic recognition in baseball if people talk about it. Yeah. So he had back-to-back, and he actually had to toss 2 no-hitters for the Astros. That's another thing people don't talk about. I think he's the only Astros pitcher with 2 no-hitters, right? Okay, so somebody said hello. Yeah, let me know where you're joining from. That's always good for me, all right? Okay, and how about this one? On, let's see, yeah. On July 14th, 1968, he set the Astros franchise record by striking out 18 Cincinnati Reds, and that's in a baseball game, and that's a mark that still stands to this day. And that's a guy by the name of Don Wilson. We don't talk about Don very much, but right here, this is a place you can come and you will find information about players that need to be spoken to more often, but it's not. So that is Don Wilson. And so, guys, that does it for this edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. This is our January 5th, 2026 edition of Baseball Facts that relate to African Americans. And I just want to thank everybody for joining. If you're picking this broadcast up and on not live, but say you're picking it up somewhere in the future, be sure and subscribe. We try to make things happen here. And this always says, okay, I am listening. Very good. Well, thank you very much. Where are you listening from? That's what I want to know. Where are you listening from? And are you a first-time listener? That's always interesting for me to know. And guys, once again, I'm always interested in reading good books. I'm just received this book here, and this is called The Right Side of History. This is the book about a guy who ended up breaking the color barrier along with Jackie Robinson. Talk about and that was Johnny Wright. And this is a book his daughter sent me, and I had to send her one of my books as well. And so this is a guy that you might want to read about. And I know if you watch the movie 42, they had Jackie Robinson being in Montreal by himself. However, Jackie Robinson was in Montreal with 2 African-American players at different times. One of them joining from the beginning, and that's going to be Johnny Wright. And the other one is Roy Partlow. And just so happens that I didn't get a chance to interview Jackie Robinson, but I did interview Johnny Wright and Roy Partlow. Roy Partlow was a great interviewer, and I'm probably one of the few people alive that interviewed both of those guys. And so that's great. And because somebody said, okay, I'm listening from South Africa. Certainly appreciate that. That's a long ways from Kansas City in the Midwest here where we're talking baseball. So certainly appreciate it. Hey, if you like what's going on here, go ahead and subscribe, and you can catch me later on, and we'll be talking baseball if you like baseball, or if you want to learn about baseball. Hey, I'd love to learn something about cricket. I need to know more about cricket is what I need to know about. So anyway, guys, that does it for me. I want to thank everybody for joining, and continue to follow us, guys. We're building a network, and we're on our way to 500 subscribers here in less than 6 months. And for our broadcast, that's kind of unique because we're not doing anything funny. And, I don't have a bunch of girls dancing in the background, all this kind of stuff, scantily dressed, right? But I will tell you this, we give information, we give history, and we have a good time doing it. And I'm an award-winning author, and I just like talking about this subject, and been doing it ever since God gave it to me. Is a probably when I was in the third or fourth grade, I fell in love with baseball and been talking about it ever since. And today I'm nationally recognized for the things that I do related. And if you're ever in Kansas City, uh, feel free to stop by the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and I'm a co-founder of that museum. And actually, quiet as kept, I'm the one who brought the idea to Kansas City. Yeah, so I had a major influence on that particular museum. So anyway, guys, that does it for me today. Feel free to join me. I will be coming back regularly, and we build this network and hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers, hopefully by the first quarter of the year. We're certainly halfway, almost halfway there right now. So, all right, have a good day, and just remember, stay positive and keep the struggle going. This is Phil Dixon, and this has been the January 5th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Bye.